Thank you for tuning into Faces of Hope, a series brought to you by the St. Marianne Cope Shrine and Museum. Kate Mahoney leads us in candid conversations of hope and healing and inspiration from people who share the values of Marianne in their day-to-day lives and work. Today's episode, Rising to the Challenge. Dolly Bush is a sister in St. Marianne's community, the Sisters of St. Francis of the Newman Communities. Her work in providing sustenance and hope for those in need at the Northside Ministries are fueled by her belief in creating an equal playing field and never giving up.
Good morning, Sister Dolly.
Good morning, Kate. How are you today?
I am doing well. It is so nice to share a little time with you. I mean, COVID aside, it's also been a really long time since we've actually been in a room together.
Yes, it has.
So,
well, yeah, it has.
You know, thanks so much for carving out a little time. What have you been up to I don't know, what it's in the pandemic, or just what is a day in your life looking like these days?
It changes daily. So we can't do any of our social programs here at the Northside Ministry. So we can't do our coffee and donuts. We can't do the women's group. We are doing our Christmas giveaway, but we can't do breakfast with Santa.
Yeah.
So at least we can make sure the kids get gifts. But a lot of the fun is
yeah.
is different.
How do you make it interesting? How do you make it fun?
Yeah.
Everyone is figuring that out, you know. What is the women's group?
Oh, the women's group. We've done it off and on for, I would say, probably about 15 years, but it's taken the last probably 5 or 6 years. It's really taken a solid shape. So they meet at least monthly. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's social, sometimes it's spiritual, sometimes it's educational trip. And
cool.
There's a core of about 8 to 10 women, and then others kind of drift in and out.
Sure. Is it intergenerational, intercultural? Like, what is?
It's whoever shows up.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
So we don't put boundaries on it.
Right.
We've done things like we've gone to the Erie Canal Park and taken a little ride on the canal boat. We've gone to the Harriet Tubman Museum.
Nice.
And then lunch to the Mother Marianne Museum, of course, a couple of times. Once when it was in the Mother House, and then at its current location.
Yeah.
The Women's Hall of Fame in Seneca Falls.
I just went there. It was actually in this calendar year. I can't remember how long ago it was, but they were scheduling tours to make sure that everybody could be at a safe distance, and, you know, masks and sanitizer and all that. Yeah. And it was so wild. My mom and I were standing 6 feet from the banner that references Mother Marianne and her role in health administration, and 6 feet to the other side, my mom heard a woman say, "Oh, that's your family." And she kind of leaned in, and it was the long and short of it was this woman's mother is the granddaughter of Mother Marianne's brother.
Isn't it funny?
I feel bad. I hesitate to say that while we're recording because I have to go back and check my notes. But we had this great conversation out in the parking lot afterwards, and it turned out that this woman was married to someone who went to high school with my mom's brother, and it was such a nice way to have a small world come right back to Mother Marianne, you know.
When I was when the museum was at the Mother House and they would have the chapel open, I would volunteer like often on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And I met this young man who went to a shrine of Father Damien's in Belgium, saw information about Mother Marianne. He lived in the East Coast, and he came to the Mother House. I know, it's just...
Oh my gosh. Wow.
If you talk to people long enough, it's just a big circle that comes back, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, you say that, Dolly, and I see you as kind of the person who personifies the Venn diagram of community in the work that you do. How did you come to be part of and almost, synonymous with Northside Ministries? Like, what was that evolution for you?
It was actually in 1998, and there were a couple of things happening simultaneously, like you know what? I'm not going to remember who the bishop was at that time in Syracuse.
Oh gosh.
I think it was
in 98. Was it Moynihan? Yeah, I think so. Okay.
And he was looking for men's communities to come to Syracuse and enhance, the presence of men's communities in the city. And the only ones they got a bite from were the Franciscans, who were already here. And they said they would be willing to send guys to enhance that presence. At the same time, the sisters were kind of looking for some outreach endeavors to get into, and so were the friars. So when the friars agreed to come to Syracuse, they're like, well, this is all in discussion anyway, so why don't we do this together? So there were various ministries that the friars and the sisters were involved in as partners. And the Northside Ministries was one of them. There was no such thing. So we just kind of created it as we went. And it was very different looking in its beginning. We were working with 6 parishes on the north side as an evangelization type thing.
So Trinity was probably still active,
yes,
right?
Trinity was one of them. Yeah. I don't know if you're interested in who they were, but anyway, they're
whatever you want to share.
I mean, there was Trinity Assumption. Let me see, John the Baptist, Our Lady of Pompeii, St. Peter's at the time.
Oh, okay.
And St. Vincent's.
Okay.
So we did a variety of activities with those persons, and it was really very, very cool.
Yeah.
But it just morphed into, we were starting to grow and take root, and we didn't have an office. So there was Father Tim, Father Justin, and myself working on the project. And Pat Gallagher, who was the pastor at Assumption at the time, said, well, we have this caretaker's house that's been vacant for a few years, and people have been kind of living in there, but if you want to clean it up, you can use it. And so that's what we did. And that's where we were until about 3 years ago, when some of the buildings on the Assumption campus were sold, and we moved over to the downstairs of the old friary and sprawled out down there a little bit.
Yeah. I always think of those really long refectory tables. And I don't know that they're still there, but that's one of my first memories of being in that space, those giant tables, because my mom, being one of 14 kids, my grandparents had a very similar long table. So it was just kind of this, for me, aside from the Franciscan mission, but the tangible table was very reminiscent and familiar to me. So did you choose to be a part of that, or were you delegated? Okay.
I did. It was like the sisters put out this kind of APB of who's interested. And I thought, this is just, I'm not an artist, I'm not a singer. This is how I can be creative.
Yeah.
So it was a good opportunity for me, and it just was there. So I had no idea if I'd be good or bad at it, but
you gave it, you said yes.
Yeah.
So I cannot help but draw the comparison in history. It was the letter that was received by Mother Marianne, that version of the APB from the Sandwich Islands. And she said yes and put it together. Have you thought over the years, or have you drawn on any of those, the model, the similarity? I mean, I know that out of your own humility, you may not say, oh yes, I'm like really Mother Marianne. But, I think it's okay to say that you are like Mother Marianne in that sense.
Well, she was also missioned at Assumption. So, I always, when I think about, because most days I don't really think about it, but when I think about it, it's like, holy cow. I mean, here I am walking the same space. Maybe not the exact same space, but the
Yeah.
same space.
Yeah.
And reaching out as she did. So, yeah, it is very awkward to make that comparison, but yeah. And I think she's really been a model in, like, you know, she really amazes me because she's just the perfect model of, like, everyone is in the same playing field.
Mhm.
So she was with king and queens, prime ministers and lepers, doctors,
Yeah.
and they were just people. And hopefully that's what happens here with myself and, of course, Sister JP and the volunteers. We try to impart that to everybody. And you know what? They wouldn't be volunteering here
Yeah.
if they didn't know that already.
Yeah.
So I'm always grateful and humbled by the way people are treated here by the volunteers.
Mm-hmm. That's lovely to hear. I mean, that value of welcome is so important, you know, and I know the population has changed over the years, but you know, that side of town always had different languages, different cultures, different foods, but I've always kind of, I don't want to say packaged, but I guess packaged that into opportunity for engagement, because you're either gathering around a meal or you're giving directions or things that happen when we have interpersonal relations. And so that relationship building that comes on the North Side, particularly with new refugee populations coming in, whether you speak the language or cook the same food or have the same belief system, you provide such a beautiful anchor of what it means to be welcomed into community. And I just think that is so impactful.
Well, it's so much fun and it's so interesting because, like, especially at the clinic, people, they can't pay. That's why they're there.
Yep.
But they will often do something or bring something. Like, this is really awesome. There's a group of, there's a monastery. I'm not sure what the terminology is actually, of female Buddhist monks down the street.
Okay.
So before they were like established in the community, they must have doctors or something now, but they would come to us with an interpreter, and we would take care of their healthcare needs. And so like one day they came with like this like awesome tray of, I don't know, in Hawaii it's manapua. I don't know what I don't know what they call it, but it was like a bread stuffed with some kind of a meat. It was delicious, and what a fun way, you know, to blend cultures, to share in one another's heritage.
Yeah.
So fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I know.
But that's not uncommon.
What's up?
It's not uncommon.
Right.
People of various cultures will bake a batch of cookies and say, this is what we have at our holiday, whatever their holiday is.
Yeah.
And we'd like you to, you know, we'd like you to try it. So
do you have a favorite treat that you make and that you share out?
I don't know that I have a favorite.
Okay. Equal opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Of course, coffee and donuts is a good place to do that too.
Yes.
Which, we're unable to do right now.
Right.
Because of social distancing. So
yeah,
that's another funny thing. Like, we had no clue, so we just opened the door and put a sign out, and one guy wandered in, and for like 4 weeks it was one guy coming in, and then he brought a friend, and then they brought, now we get about 30 people at least.
Oh, wow.
Tuesday morning.
Well, yeah, I mean, people sometimes need to be invited.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And it's funny you say that. I remember when we were living in Ireland, and my parents had a party, and we were like the new American neighbors.
Oh, yeah.
People on our road, and I mean, our road was long, but there were people on our road who had lived there for decades and were meeting each other for the first time. And it was strange, but more than strange, it was just so cool that it was a chance for everybody to kind of get to know one another, you know, under the guise of like, let's check out the Americans, you know. But,
yeah.
So I've asked a couple people this, and I'm curious to know, do you have a word that you might use that you think best describes Mother, or more aptly, what is a word that you would use to describe her just for your own relationship with her?
I don't know if there's a word.
Okay.
But the thing that I really admire about her was like she never gave up. You know, the kind of joke is it took her 4 months to get to Hawaii, or 4 weeks, and like 4 years to work with the lepers, to get to Molokai. I mean, she was very persistent, and she didn't give up, and I'm sure she didn't know how to do things, but she figured it out.
Yeah, I mean, from history, she delegated too, right? And even what she delegated was her saying, I don't know how to do this, and you may not know how to do this, but we're going to support one another in that endeavor. So, yeah.
And it's funny. I think in life, I know in religious life, that's been a real challenge, but it's something that you rise to the occasion. But I think that's life in general.
Yeah.
When you're given a challenge, and it's something that you're like, oh yeah, this is interesting. You know, you can do it if you just figure it out.
Yeah. When you were, I don't know, you tell me, when was it that you felt the sisterhood was something that you wanted to be a part of? And
oh my gosh.
Is that, I mean, whatever version, whatever parts, I would just love to know that part of your story. Like Sister Kathy Osbelt was sharing that when she was little, her sisters were making the bandages for the nurses on Molokai, but she was really young. And so she sort of was like, why can't they get their
Oh, they really were doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant as like kids they were playing.
No. And so I wondered, you know, that was a part of her story that I had never heard. And I love hearing about what the formative years looked like, especially in conjunction with where you are now. Like, do you think little girl Dolly is where you were, you know, are you where you thought you'd be in some way?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Well, maybe in some ways. I was all about fun when I was little. I didn't have.
I think you're still there.
But I didn't enter the convent until I was 34. I worked for Key Bank and was beginning to climb the rungs of the ladder. I'm from Morrisville, so we did not have sisters in our church. We didn't have Catholic schools. So I was older when I first met sisters. My parish had invited Felician sisters to come one summer for a couple of weeks and do like a vacation Bible school for the kids and visit people in their homes. And I was not full-time employed at the time and was getting more active in the church. And I thought, oh, well, maybe I could help out with that. So that's actually how I met the Felician sisters. And then when I became interested in religious life, that kind of piqued my interest. And then I very methodically, internet, we didn't really have then. So I very methodically went down to the Diocesan Office of Vocations and looked through their giant manual of religious communities. And I didn't even know there were Sisters of St. Francis in Syracuse.
Okay. Oh
And
my
I didn't,
gosh, I didn't know that. Okay.
yeah, yeah. And my father was elderly at the time, and I'm like, jeepers, it would be great if I could like be close to him, and if they were, what's the word I want to say, like open to letting me go home and stuff, because a lot weren't, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, there were a number of factors that just kind of played into that. I knew like zip about Mother Marianne.
Yeah.
And in fact, when we were first introduced to the book of A Song of Pilgrimage and Exile,
A little light reading.
Yeah, I just kind of faked my way through it the first time.
That's exactly what I did. That's so funny. Yeah.
And then when I realized a little bit more about how important this was, and of course I went back and read it, and I've read it several times since then, because I do find it so inspirational.
Yeah. Oh, wow. No, I mean, even when I think about what I've learned of Mother Marianne and her father being ill, and how that informed the timing of her entry, you know, like as you were saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, there's just, again, not, it doesn't have to be framed by the convent or the religion. There's just that human connection of shared experience in those two different ways. But I did not know that you had that business acumen coming into this. So do you still find that you call on some of what you learned or shared or know of the banking industry within the context of the ever-changing world of, you know, sisterhood and convents and, I don't know, real estate or whatever?
Well, it certainly comes in handy.
Yeah.
Like with the Northside Ministries in particular, in the early days, well, now we have like an accountant involved, but in the early days we didn't. So it was great to have that background and just, we'll just use QuickBooks and we'll figure it out. And so that was kind of, I mean, it was pretty straightforward and simple. So that was really handy to have that background. I also have an associate's degree in hotel restaurant management. So,
oh my gosh,
that is like super handy.
You are the hostess with the mostest.
So that's a lot. That was a lot of fun. And that's, you know, I've always done food service work as a kid, and, you know, into my 20s. So, that's really come in handy.
Sure. So, wow.
I know.
That's
everybody,
so cool.
Everybody does it. Nobody does the thing they start out doing.
Yeah.
Nobody ends up.
I know. I mean, retrospectively, I think there, you can, if you look for it, I think there's always some kind of random through line.
Yeah.
But it is also, I mean, I think you've set the intention around relationship building and sharing in community and giving back. And so that, you know, that always informs and inspires. I mean, every time, I told you, my mom saw you on the news last week, and I think you were talking about like the toy drive and how you weren't doing breakfast with Santa, right?
Yeah.
And my mom was so funny. She was like, Dolly's out in the streets again, like getting everybody together and, you know, doing such great work. And so, yeah, whether you're that or you're the person with the pizza sign on the corner, it's all
yeah.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you would like to share or want to offer in terms of the celebration of your sisters and Mother Marianne, since we're going to do this little video series in advance of her feast day?
That's a tough one, because it's hard to I don't even know a word to say just to break it down. No, we were, I guess we were reminiscing a couple of weeks ago. JP, myself, we're telling a couple people about the trip to the canonization.
Mm.
And so I think, I don't know, I think kind of remembering that trip and what it stands for and all the people that were there and just the positivity and excitement of the whole thing. I don't know if I can say this publicly, and you can cut it out if you like, but I can't believe that women are not flocking to religious life. It's so exciting.
Yeah. That's so lovely to hear you say that, because your experience has been one of celebration and welcome and really deep, important work. And I mean, I'm putting words in your mouth now. I'm sorry, but
go ahead.
What, I mean, do you say you don't know what would be, I don't know, let's say somebody's on the street. Dolly, why should I become a sister?
You know, there are so many things that women can do in the church that they couldn't before. And there are so many things they still can't do that we should be able to do. But religious life is so much bigger than yourself. That it's, and you might not see it day to day, but when I stop and reflect on it, it is, or when I sit in that chapel with all the sisters around me, I can't even add up the number of years of service and dedication that they've together brought into not just Central New York, but United States and in foreign missions. It's just incredible to be part of that.
That's really beautiful.
That's all I can say, really.
That's a lot. No, it's, I mean, to be, like you said, to kind of widen your view to see that you're a part of something so much larger than yourself. And I think it does have a space in religious life. And it also is just such a beautiful way to see the world of people from all walks of life and all belief systems. Because I do think, especially now during this pandemic, we're inundated with messages of what is happening around us, while we are often consumed by what's happening to us and for us. And, you know, we can get a little myopic because of the isolation and other things. So any of those gentle to more insistent nudges that we are part of something, I think is really, really helpful. So thank you for framing it in a way that it's meant for you. I really appreciate that.
Sure.
So, well, I think this is great. And I'm so glad we got to hang out for a little while.
Yeah.
And where are you heading in your day now?
There's another local agency we had that we're sharing some of our wealth with from the outpouring. So we're going to be, I'm headed out to pick up a few things for them and gather what we have here together.
Okay.
So we can kind of share of our abundance.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And you know what? It's good.
Yeah.
We got a phone call and they're like, I didn't know who to go to. Our funding was cut. We usually give gifts to like 10 people.
Yeah.
We're just not able to do that this year. I said, you know what? We got a wonderful response from people, and I think we can help out with that. So
yeah. Great
to be able to do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's really funny do you know Stella Mars?
Oh yeah.
Little Stella.
Oh.
The sister? Not the retreat center, the Little Sister.
I don't know. I'm thinking Celestine. So no, that's not
Oh,
right.
no, Stella.
No, I don't think I do.
Stella used to run the food pantry when I first started at the Northside Ministries. And she would always say, because people would thank her, and she'd say, it's not me. I accept things with one hand and I give them out with the other.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. That's exactly how it works.
Well, thank you for being the access point for what comes in and what goes out.
Kate, it's great to see you.
Thank
really
you. Give
is.
my love to JP.
Yeah, and say hi
And,
to your mom.
I
Oh my
will.
gosh.
I will. She
Yeah.
sends her love. Yeah.
Mm.
And, we'll talk again soon, but thanks so much for being a part of this.
Okay, thank you. It
I
was
can't
fun.
wait to, give people the opportunity to hear your part of being, something bigger.
Okay, thanks,
All right.
Kate.
Love you.
Peace. You
Bye.
too. Bye.